Today, let's talk about an important question. How strong is your bank financially? One key way to understand this is through something called the Capital Adequacy Ratio, or CAR. So, what is Capital Adequacy Ratio? Simply put, Capital Adequacy Ratio tells us how much capital a bank has compared to the risks it takes by giving loans and making investments. Think of it as a safety net or cushion that protects the bank and your money if things go wrong. Banks face risks every day. For example, some loans might not be repaid. Capital Adequacy Ratio helps us see if the bank has enough money set aside to absorb those losses without collapsing. Now, let's take a look at the formula for the Capital Adequacy Ratio. Capital Adequacy Ratio is calculated by adding Tier 1 capital and Tier 2 capital and then dividing that sum by the risk-weighted assets. In other words, the formula looks like this. Capital Adequacy Ratio equals Tier 1 capital plus Tier 2 capital divided by risk-weighted assets. This ratio helps us understand how well a bank is capitalized relative to the risks it takes. What do these terms mean? Tier 1 capital is the bank's core capital. This includes money from shareholders and reserves that can absorb losses while the bank is still running. Tier 2 capital is supplementary capital. It includes things like revaluation reserves and some types of debt that can absorb losses if the bank is closing down. Risk-weighted assets are the bank's assets, like loans, but adjusted for how risky they are. For example, loans to the government are less risky than loans to individuals, so they have a lower weight. In India, the Reserve Bank of India, RBI, requires banks to maintain a minimum capital adequacy ratio of 9%, while international Basel III rules suggest at least 8%. This means banks must have capital equal to at least 9% of their risk-weighted assets to be considered safe. Why is this important? A higher capital adequacy ratio means the bank is safer and better prepared to handle tough times, like economic downturns or loan defaults. It protects depositors' money and helps keep the financial system stable. Let me give you a simple example to understand how the capital adequacy ratio works. Suppose a bank has Tier 1 capital of 800 million rupees and Tier 2 capital of 300 million rupees. Its risk-weighted assets amount to 5,000 million rupees. Using the capital adequacy ratio formula, which is the sum of Tier 1 and Tier 2 capital divided by risk-weighted assets, we calculate it like this. Capital adequacy ratio equals 800 million plus 300 million divided by 5,000 million. That's 1,100 million divided by 5,000 million. When you do the math, it comes out to 0.22 or 22%. This means the bank has a capital adequacy ratio of 22%, which is well above the minimum required levels, indicating a strong financial cushion. Thank you.